Fox News political insiders are back, and they have clipped you, Doug Schoen, our viewers on Twitter. Doug Schoen is reconsidering his support for Hillary Clinton. We can't afford a constitutional crisis. They're quoting you, and it's starting to trend in my Twitter feed right now. A lot of people are saying that you're asking the questions that nobody else is asking, and you're saying that they're questions that Donald Trump should be asking.
I think this. We got 8 days left. I think really what he ought to do, he's got plenty of money in the campaign. He ought to buy a half an hour of live national primetime TV, which you can do. He ought to sit down.
Does he need to buy it? Because he tends to get it for free.
You buy it, and you get a half hour, and you sit down at a desk with a teleprompter in a presidential-type setting, and he speaks to the country about just what we've all said. Folks, if you elect Hillary, here's what the world will look like beginning November 9th, this constitutional crisis. If you elect me, I pledge I'm going to bring Democrats in. I'm going to bring Republicans in. We're going to have a bipartisan administration. We're going to work together to clean up this mess.
The hardest part of that might be getting establishment Republicans for him.
Well, he can say it, though.
But that message will help. Look, Donald Trump has to assure the country that he can provide leadership, direction to a rudderless country, and that he is fit for the office. Somebody like me has made it clear I'm not now able to support the Secretary of State, but I'm not convinced I can vote for Donald Trump. Precisely for the reasons John suggested, Donald Trump has to reassure swing voters and people who think like me.
So real quickly, purchase primetime 30 minutes, because you want to catch people when they're at home, almost creating his own fireside moment.
Yeah, to go over the head of the press, to go over the media, which has been so one-sided, and make his own case in a way both for what the stakes in the election are, the things you're saying, and what kind of government, to reassure people, if he can do that, because we just put up on the board, and I'll tell you, the polls are even worse than they appear for Hillary, because I don't have time, the ABC, Ipsos, not Ipsos, the Investor Daily, they are all moving around their party weightings because they're terrified that they are finding more Republicans voting than even Democrats or higher interest now. And this is even before Friday's announcement. I am telling you, having 34% of the people say they're less likely is gigantic this late in the campaign.
All right. One thing, though, has happened, Doug, and you and I were talking about this during the commercial. You've had upwards of 15 million people already cast their votes in person in early voting. So I said before the commercial break, are there places where you can change your votes? Let's pop that map up. There are not a lot of them, these states, but it can happen. Hawaii, you see off there to the right, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. In Connecticut, for example, you can file another absentee ballot. The last one they receive will be the one that they count. You can do this up until November 1st. I'm just going to read a couple of these. In Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, this is interesting. You can confirm that the following, or we can confirm that those states give early absentee voters a window of time where they can go back to their local elections office and request their ballot back for a redo before anything is counted. And then some of those other states that we popped up, New York is another one where if this is the case, you can say you made a mistake and that you want to go back. But you have to say that the ballot has been spoiled in the state of New York.
Absentee.
Again before November 1st.
Right, but early voting in most states nowadays is
in person.
Right, and you can't change that. And here's the analogy of it.
Well, hold on 1 second. In Pennsylvania, absentee ballot can be invalidated by voting in person. So you can go back in person.
The reason that's so significant, Donald Trump basically needs Pennsylvania if he's going to win. That state is now within 5 points. If enough people change their vote, it could make a difference in Pennsylvania in a close election. Michigan and Wisconsin are somewhat stronger for the Secretary of State. And the other issue about early voting is, according to Reuters, that Hillary's ahead by 15%. It may be an exaggeration, but it's clear she and the Democrats have an advantage with early voting, and that is one of the hurdles that Donald Trump will have to overcome.
Well, and so you see the Women for Trump out on the stump, and you see other factions that the campaign is working with to try to get people. And I asked specifically in my interview with Laura Trump tonight, what are you doing to make sure that the people that come out, those huge crowds, are actually registered voters? Because otherwise it's a missed opportunity.
Well, it's too late if they're not registered.
And she says they have a mechanism that they have on the ground.
But the Hillary people have a much better on-the-ground campaign to get these people out.
Well, nobody would argue with that. They've got the experience.
But this early voting thing, it's like a jury. You know, you wait. You're supposed to wait till the closing arguments. And when you've heard that, you go in the room and you deliberate and you make a verdict.
So
right?
you're not a fan of doing this?
Well, but no, what's happening is it's like some jurors halfway through the trial say, I made up my mind, he's guilty, I'm leaving. That's what this is. Before you've heard everything,
let me tell
voting.
you my concern with early voting. I think we should have an all-day voting or a whole 2 days of voting or whatever. But the point is to have early voting a month starting early before the thing is closed. We're supposed to have an election day. It's supposed to culminate. This is, again, another reform with unintended consequences that nobody bothered to think through, and it has been bothering me for a long time. In this election, we will see it. Those people who have voted in person, who now say, oh, my God, I wouldn't have done that, they're gone. They can't recall their vote.
By that margin.
And that does go to the person who has the tightest ground game, because they would have been getting out there.
And you know what? You're going to see Hillary's ground game accelerate minority areas.
Oh, yeah.
This
week.
we're
already seeing it.
Yeah.
The Latino vote is...
But I think
she's dancing. She wants like a national dance party now, and I don't know how that speaks to all of us of color. I do like to dance, but whatever.
A place and a time for everything.
Right? I want to get the last thoughts as we go ahead with the big news with this FBI reopening its investigations. Just last thoughts, Doug.
My last thoughts are this throws the race wide open. The House is now going to be secure for the Republicans. The Senate back in play.
Pat?
I think Doug's right about that, and I also believe that I think we're already seeing signs that this could be like 1980, which is previously, and I was on the wrong side of that one, the only election which went in close and came out big, and because events started pushing the vote. And I believe, given the structure of attitudes against what's been going on overall in the country, that helps.
We'll be right back.